LeBlanc is a champion that constantly gravitates a huge proportion of the meta in professional play. Every time that she even gets remotely close to being viable, pro teams won't hesitate to throw her in. Despite this, she is one of the last champions I would recommend to the average player in Soloq, to the point where I would consider her to be a fairly weak champion if you're trying to climb. This video hopes to help you break down how this dichotomy is possible, how this ties into the differences between the environments in Soloq versus pro play, and how we can fully comprehend this to apply it to our own contexts, whether that be in our own climbs or in a team environment. A quick reminder to get subscribed if you enjoyed this video. Moving on. Before I address this topic, if you happen to main LeBlanc or really enjoy her, don't listen to my advice. I highly recommend playing who you like, and if LeBlanc happens to be your cup of tea and how you play best, you should not let a video like this stop you. So to understand the conundrum that we have with LeBlanc in general, let's first start with some of the strengths that she has in professional play. One of her biggest strengths in mid is her ability to do well and have a favorable matchup into almost every champion in the game. A natural byproduct of this strength is her ability to also be blind picked in most compositions. The reason this is so significant in a role like mid is because of the importance of having these strengths in that area of the map. Geographically, mid is very important to almost every single play on the map and in the game. By being able to pick a mid laner that is able to consistently be first to these plays, enable their teammates, and win skirmishes, it's all that any professional team could ask for. These teams are playing at the highest level possible, so it will only be natural that they have a decent understanding of how to extend a lead when that is given to them to begin with. LeBlanc is a champion that not only immediately gives that power when she's picked, there aren't many options for the team that's playing into her because of this. She gives teams the power to thrive in the early game and can take that lead to have a strong finish in the late game. The flexibility and the power also extends to the draft phase. Notice how I mentioned that LeBlanc does not have many counters into her kit. This continues to imply in draft, where she's an incredible resource for many teams where she is good. Champions that are able to both be blinded and secure winning matchups are rare. Add in the fact that LeBlanc is a champion that has both of these factors and can be very flexible by slotting herself into many team compositions. She can convert from an assassin to a bit of control mage for certain teams, and more often than not, most team comps will appreciate the early game facilitation and leverage she brings to the table. This is why in drafts, you'll often see her picked as early as in the B1 slot, as this essentially allows teams that draft her in this way to lose nothing. Draft is about revealing your cards and being able to counter what the enemy team has revealed, but most of the time when you draft LeBlanc, there's not many true counters to deal with it. Don't get me wrong, however, counters are apparent and do exist for this champion. Things like Lysandra and Vex come to mind immediately for talking matchups, and some very tanky team compositions might give her trouble in the later phases of the game. But most of the time, getting to this point requires teams to really shape their drafts in a certain way just to deal with this LeBlanc pick, which in itself can draw a lot of resources against the enemy team, and in turn nets LeBlanc a win in different fashion. With all of this being said, it's quite easy to see why so many teams love picking LeBlanc so often. So with all of these supposed strengths, why am I so confident in saying that you should not be playing LeBlanc in Soloq? The reason for this ties a little bit into how Soloq works overall, and how this change in environment might not be the best for her. Let's face it, Soloq is an extremely chaotic environment overall, even at the highest levels of play. LeBlanc does present very noticeable strengths in the early game, and this is undoubtedly true. The only issue with this in Soloq is that although she can reward teams greatly for an advantage, it is very reliant on strong execution and being able to make consistent plays in the game. In an environment like Soloq, where there is a lot of variance even in the best looking of plays, it can only take one or two botched plays for LeBlanc to fall behind. And when LeBlanc finds herself in these situations where she can't have as much of a game impact, it is extremely hard for her to get back out. Imagine it like this. Her champion identity effectively revolves around her gaining a lead for free, so it's natural to think that if she were to lose this lead for any reason, that she should get punished for it. That's pretty much the mindset to have here. There's a fine distinction here between this strength in LeBlanc versus other early game champions, because technically speaking, this weakness should apply to most champions that just present an early game strength to begin with. I'd actually argue that it's very rewarding and good for your improvement as a player to play these champions at times, because doing so rewards you for being the better player, having a strong understanding of how to succeed in the early game and how to run home with the game with the right skill set. It's just that with a champion like LeBlanc, the margin for execution is so narrow, and it's so hard to actually be able to consistently earn and maintain these leads that I don't end up recommending her for most people. So again, if you simply enjoy playing LeBlanc and that's what you feel like you perform best with, then that's totally okay. Simply keep playing her and do your thing. But if you're looking to climb the ladder and look to pick champions picked on the pro stage, then LeBlanc might not actually be what you're looking for. As always, hope this video was insightful to you guys, and I will catch you in the next one. Stay fresh.